Now that we've done our audience analysis, we have found our topic. It is time to do the research to give us something truly to speak about. Research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. It is absolutely what brings your speech to life. Because if you don't do your research, you have a real difficult time filling even the minimum of speeches of 3 to 5 minutes, much less to give a 20-minute lecture or perhaps engage your audience in depth so they better understand the topic. Let's take a look at why research matters, research planning, and finally, finding those resources to help bring your presentation to life. Why research matters. Research matters because it is absolutely our way of blessing our audience. It is a way of collecting knowledge so that way we can share it with our knowledge. We have several areas that we consider when we draw our knowledge from. The first is common knowledge. Now, common knowledge is knowledge that we pretty much all know because it's based on social norms. It is based on perhaps level of education. It is something that is not shocking or new to your audience in most cases. It can be enlightening for your audience if you're doing a speech outside of your normal social group, such as if you are a huge fan of country western music and you travel to Germany and you decide, I'm going to give a speech on American country western music. You could use a lot of common knowledge there because in the society that you're in, it's new to them, it's different. However, if I was to give the same speech and travel up to, say, Fort Collins, my audience would lose interest fast and wander away because they already know what I'm saying. So it is a starting point of what you know and what your group knows, your social group, your regional area that you live in, but it's not really research and it's not a great place to go from. Next, research matters because what we're trying to do is uncover facts that illuminate or tell us something about reality that we did not see. Now, the book goes into truth, talking about truths. Truth is a fact or belief that is widely accepted by a given community or group of people. This is where I absolutely break from the book because I think we have a tendency to believe that one person's truth is another person's truth is another person's truth. That may be, but my truth, being a gentleman in his 50s living in northern Colorado, is completely different than, say, the perception of someone else living in northern Colorado that doesn't share my background or my experience. So my truth can be different than other people's truths. So it's needed to be understood that truth is actually a social construct that includes aspects of our experiences and what we believe. We believed in Santa Claus. Is Santa Claus the truth? To an 8-year-old, absolutely. To a 54-year-old, not so much. So I do break from the book here. When I'm talking about why research matters, it matters because we are looking for facts and knowledge, especially in the scientific community, that leads us to a greater understanding of the reality of which we live, which reality goes beyond truth. One way I like to look at it is that research is like putting money into our presentation bank. The more you put in there, the more you can share. Unfortunately, when we look at some aspects such as common knowledge, this is like finding money in the couch. You might find a dollar here, a nickel, some pennies, but not really anything you can contribute to your presentation. To actually get anything put in that bank that we're drawing our presentation from, it requires work. And just like work, the harder you work, the more you put into it, the more money you have to put into that bank to withdraw on presentation. So when you're thinking about it, think of that common knowledge as kind of being a start. But to really bless and give something to your audience, you need to get substantial amounts in that savings. So that way you can draw it out and present more to your audience. So that's what research is. It's putting knowledge in the bank. So that way when you get up there in front of a group and you need to present, you actually have enough to go for a period of time. Not just the nickels and dimes you found in the couch, which gets you to about the first 20 to 30 seconds of a speech and then leaves you dry. So absolutely, consider yourself that research is depositing in there so you have something to draw from. Now that we have put some of that research into that bank so that way we have something to present to our audience, one thing we don't want to be doing is passing bad checks. In research, a bad check would be that misinformation. It is false, inaccurate, or misleading information that doesn't have anything to draw from in that bank. It can be on purpose, it can be on accident, but it absolutely breaks your agreement with your audience. It makes it so they don't trust you and that your overall message is lost because of that bad check you wrote and that misinformation you passed. I'm going to break from the book a little bit again about that we have a tendency to rely on that common knowledge. But like I said, that common knowledge isn't putting a lot in that bank, and so it's easy to overdraw in that situation. So make sure you're not just relying on it. If you don't do proper research, you're not putting information in that bank that's good to draw from. So we're going to talk a little bit here in a minute about how to find the proper information. There is also a tendency to overdraw from our research bank when we are looking just to benefit us, because we have a tendency, we want more, we like having more, so we have a tendency to overdraw. Instead, if we're concerned about our audience, we don't have that confirmation bias. We're not just there to support us, we are there to share with our audience. And of course, there can be attempts to mislead, which is unethical and should not be done in a presentation. Absolutely watch for that misinformation that might bubble up while you're doing your research. Now, if we're going to plan to do our research because we want to get beyond just that common knowledge, we want to have that bank full so that we have something to draw from when we're doing our presentation, we have to make sure we did a good topic selection and that our topic absolutely is going to give us something along the lines of research. We want to get that job that gives us enough. We want to do the research that gives us enough to actually deposit something in our storage. Give yourself enough time. You know, it's easy to fill up that repository of information if you have time. You know, you can save a little here, research a little bit more, research some more, and you end up building it up quite well. Unfortunately, if you just go on the fly and all you have is 20 to 30 minutes before your speech to do research, you're going to struggle. You're going to be hitting that couch pretty hard looking for those nickels and dimes. Develop possible resources. We'll talk about some of the resources you can draw from that will help increase that wealth of knowledge. Take notes and print your resources. This is important because it helps you avoid that plagiarism, that misinformation that we talked about, and other things that get you in trouble. So as you're reading an article, if you print it off, highlight it. If you're on a computer, highlight it and save it with those highlights so you know what the important things are. And always make sure you link it back to the resources so that way you can avoid plagiarism and you can boost your ethos and your credibility with your audience. Here are some resources. The library. Yes, it's still out there and it is a great resource. We have a tendency now in the digital age, everything's online. But librarians love to help you out. They have extensive knowledge about researching topics. And if you're stuck on a topic, if you're stuck on research, go talk to a librarian. They will be able to help you and find new resources, or perhaps help you change that topic so that way you can find the resources. Digital, online is wonderful. Be careful with it though, because online absolutely has a lot of that false and bad information out there. So you need to have a credibility check that you have an academic resource when you are drawing information from online sources. And academic journals or peer-reviewed sites, those are usually very good because they have reached a standard in academia where it says they are good. One reason why we don't like Wikipedia is because Wikipedia can actually have people without any knowledge update and change the information based on their connection or how much they contribute towards Wikipedia's database. So Wikipedia can be a good starting point. It might give you some ideas, but for academic purposes, you want to move more towards those academic journals and academic sites or the library. Here's one of those ways you can tell if something is quality information. This is a check that is used commonly throughout academia to determine if information that you're researching and that you're using to support your presentation is good. It is called the CRAP test. I know, get the giggle out, it's all right. But what the CRAP test asks us to do is check the currency, the timeliness of the information. Most academic settings, you want 3 to 5 years is the longest you want that information out there because so much is moving fast, especially if you're talking about research into the genome or you're talking about computer technology. You know 5 years is old information. So you need more recent information. If the information, such as if you're doing a report on computers and you're researching them and you found a great article from 1965, probably needs to be updated. So currency is important. Relevance. Does it fit your needs? Not can you make it fit your needs, but just from a general scan of it, is this an article that supports what you are hoping to illuminate? Is it giving you actual information that's important to your topic? I mean, you can make a lot of things fit, but if you're forcing a fit, it's probably not relevant. Next, authority, the source of the information. Where's it coming from? Is it coming from an academic site that has a non-biased history, that absolutely they're just looking at the topic and they're not looking to drive you towards one direction or another? Or is it supported by a corporation that is interested in you believing one way, and so they publish articles that look very good, very legit, however, they're sponsored by someone that's benefiting off of them. So you want to make sure that you have a non-biased source that actually does good scientific research and gives you good results. Accuracy. Is the information reliable and is it correct? In other words, like in the scientific process, once after that experiment is done, was someone else able to duplicate it? Was someone else able to verify the information? If the accuracy is off, that again is one of those writing a bad check. So you want to make sure the accuracy is good and that they have standards that they are following. Not that it's a blog or something just you found on a social media site, but that it actually had quality research into it. And for the purpose. Is the purpose to inform? Or is the purpose, as we were mentioning, to get you to buy something or think one way or another? And thus the purpose is truly not about the audience, it's about the company, it is about the individual. So if you apply the CRAP test, you'll probably find good sources, bad sources, but you'll be able to at least determine which ones you should use. Research planning. The research interview. This is a great way in a lot of your classes to actually get a very good score, because interviews is the human stories. If you want to do a report on a insurance company and you get the opportunity to sit down with like an insurance adjuster, they'll be more enlightening and it'll be much funner talking to them than reading about it online. So research interviews are very beneficial. Remember, they do pass a lot of the crap test that we just talked about. It's going to be current information. It's going to be relevant. One area you might run into is that their purpose is they work for the insurance company. They want people to buy insurance. So there will probably be a bias. In that case, you acknowledge that, yes, this person works for this company. You hear that oftentimes on news shows. I'd like to tell you that our news is supported by this corporation who this person works for. So that way they can at least acknowledge it. If you're going to do an interview, prepare ahead of time. Don't show up and not know what you're going to ask. Don't show up and waste the person's time because you don't get good stories that way. The best way to get the person to interact with you is be prepared with some good questions. Maybe they'll want to see them beforehand so they can think of their responses, and it will absolutely maximize the time you spend in the interview. If you can, ask them if you can record it. It is an easier way than taking a bunch of notes. Plus, you get the chance to pick out some details you might have missed while you're trying to write and listen. So ask if you can record. It can just be an audio recording if you want, or it can be visual, both. Engage in active listening. In other words, ask your question and let them respond. Don't respond for them. Give them time to answer back. And then at the end, you can write down your notes from the interview, from the audio, whatever you have, and get your relevant information from there. And you will put it in there and you will cite the person as an interview under APA format. So that way you're showing that you're not stealing a person's idea, you're not plagiarizing, but you actually did an interview. One of the best things you can do is once after you write up your information, go back to your source and say, hey, this is what I heard you say. This is what I put in my report. Is it accurate? And it'll give them the chance to say, oh yeah, thank you, you did a great job. They'll appreciate it and you'll appreciate it because they won't be mad at you later. Personal accounts and stories connect well with audiences. Remember, every time you tell a story, you're asking the audience to change their viewpoint, their perspective, and to see the experience through your eyes. Always cite your sources. For this class and communication class and science classes, you'll be using APA, American Psychological Association format. You can absolutely find that by just Googling it or looking it up online. You'll find that, yes, there are places that will help you with those citations. English, they use MLA. And make sure you're doing the proper citation, because without proper citations in text, which is in your notes or in your writing, or in your speech, you say, when I spoke to Bob Smith from company X, he told me. That's an in-text citation. It boosted your credibility and it gave the proper citation. So that's how you will do it in a speech. And then at the end of the speech, just have that information there. And this avoids you getting in trouble for plagiarizing. Review why research matters, research planning, and the resources. Remember, the most successful people are those who are good at Plan B. When you're doing your research, if you're coming along and you can't find any information, that's when you need to switch to that Plan B. Go talk to that librarian, talk to me, look for additional resources that might help you redefine, narrow, or expand that topic and give you the proper amount of resources so you can look up. In class, the biggest one I think I want is 3 to 5 possible references for your persuasive speech. All right, we got this. I'll see you in the next video.